A guitarist from Boston is revealing a new side of an American composer once known primarily as an apostle of provocation. To talk about his new album featuring works of John Cage and a release event in Boston is classical guitarist Larget-Caplan. Thank you very much for being with us, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Aaron, if any of our viewers have heard of John Cage before, they think, oh, he's the guy with the 4.5 minutes of silence. I mean, what's the big deal here?
Exactly. Well, Cage was a revolutionary in classical music and avant-garde in the mid part of the century. And he's most well known for 4 minutes and 33 seconds, which is ambient sound. The musician comes and sits at his piano or instrument and with a timer, and it's 4 minutes and 33 seconds of what we call silence. And he's saying that sound and music is all around us. And he wrote actually 3 silent pieces. But before he was the provocateur, he was a composer and an artist and wrote beautiful works. And starting on my CD in the 1930s, but in the 1940s, he really started using the instrument in the inspiration of Erik Satie. These melodies, the harmonies, and resonance, where on a piano, you would use this pedal and hold the pedal down and play maybe 5, 10, 20 notes, and all the notes would ring into each other. And I fell in love with these pieces, and so I started putting them on the guitar and trying to find ways to make them work. And that's how this project, John Cage Guitar, was born.
Satie is known for simplicity and for being sort of harmonious. It goes down very easily. Does that apply to pieces by John Cage?
Sometimes, yes. So simplicity, Cage would often take a small number of notes. Let's call it a scale, but he would give himself very limited amount of notes and then create works on it. Sometimes they would be kind of a perpetual motion of just one note after the other, but using the resonance would allow the piece to have these colors. And at the same time, he's being influenced by the Far East. And so the idea of simplicity in the Far East is also about using silence and using space. And what he's doing as well is using rhythms and groupings to allow the music to kind of create a timelessness. And working with choreographers like Merce Cunningham, Louise Leopold, Sevilla Forth, he created works that are very complex rhythmically, but us as the listener may not hear those. And it allows these melodies to kind of have this otherworldly quality.
Aaron, you talk about some of that music from other places around the globe, the Far East or even Africa. That figures in minimalist music as well. The music seems to go on and on and on and on. Is that what Cage is leading to, maybe earlier than?
I think, yes. He was such an iconic composer, doing things that many in his circle were also exploring, but he influenced so many composers. So minimalism, as in Philip Glass, Steve Reich, that actually came about afterwards and was a bit of a motion against what Cage was doing. But the idea of repetition, Cage was totally into that. And so he'd create a rhythmic grouping of maybe 7 measures or 4.5 or 15. And those cycles would move through, but he's always changing it just a little bit to keep the listener, I think, to keep the listener on edge and what's going to happen next and surprise us.
You're also transcribing or reworking pieces that Cage originally wrote for other instruments. Now, there are composers who write music for other instruments, and it's at heart guitar music. What about this music?
Well, some of Cage's early music, he actually didn't even write what instrument it should be for. And so when I started reading about that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I was listening to recordings of piano music, and that's what all of this project is originally all the guitar parts are for piano. And I started looking deeper and deeper and realized that some of them sat really well on the guitar. And so the first piece I arranged was called 6 Melodies for violin and piano, and I took the piano part and put it on guitar. People liked it, and Edition Peters, the great publishing house that oversees John Cage's music, they published it and then asked me to do some solos. And so I really started digging into more of his music especially the early and mid-career, because I feel that those pieces would sit on the guitar well. He often used simple harmonies, 2, 3 voices, which the guitar is very good at, and I had to adjust it, but I think they were successful in that I've had a number of people after concerts and who've now listened to the recording wonder if they weren't really written for guitar first, which is the greatest compliment someone who's doing an arrangement can get.
What about the nature of guitars as opposed to other instruments? Because at first you think, well, guitars, they're not percussive like a piano can be sometimes, but I guess you know that from Spanish music. It can be extremely percussive, right?
Well, and I have an engineer I was working with didn't want to record me at first. And he's like, the guitar just sounds like a percussive box. And he plays piano. And I thought, wow, I don't even have hammers. But it's true. The guitar, especially in flamenco music, it's meant as a percussion instrument. And the classical guitar, it's slightly different. The strings are a little further off of the fretboard, so the tone quality can be a little sweeter, louder, and less percussive. But depending how one plays, it can be extremely melodic. We have the ability to use vibrato, where we shake the string. We can bend pitches a bit. We don't have the pedal. And so for resonance on the guitar, we have to be very creative and kind of finesse the notes and find ways to play a scale over multiple strings.
And you've got some arrangements, at least in the album, that involve another guitar and a violin. Yes. It sounds like piazzolla, maybe, right?
Well, the 6 melodies is violin. And I was very lucky to convince Adam Levin, a wonderful guitarist with me at UMass Boston, to join me for this prepared guitar. What we do is we put paper and we use an alligator clip and we put stuff in the strings, so when we play, it actually becomes a percussion instrument. And Cage did this for prepared piano. He's one of the inventors of this. And he needed to write a piece for a percussion ensemble, but he saw that the stage was too small to fit the battery of percussion. And so he looked at the piano and he started putting screws, weather stripping, washers, all in the strings to create percussion. And so I thought, we should do this on the guitar. And I love the piece, Bacchanal. It sounds like early metal to me, 1940, I think it is. It's a lot of fun to do.
Bacchanal, Bacchianos. We should mention you've got an event coming up in Boston to kick this off, and we should let people know about that.
Yes, December 1st at, Arlington Street Church, the chapel. And it's going to be a wonderful concert. I'm joined by Boston Conservatory violinist Sharon Leventhal, who will play 6 melodies with me, and Adam Levin, and we'll do the prepared guitar piece, Bacchanal, and I'll play solos. So it'll be a live version of the album, and it's very exciting.
And of course, if people want the CD or keep track of you on social media, there's a place people can go as well?
There is. On Facebook, I am Aaron LC Guitar. My website is the easiest, alcguitar.com. And the event on the 1st, there are tickets available through Eventbrite. And of course, the CD is everywhere, Spotify, Amazon, and everywhere else.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Aaron Larget-Caplan.